All right, so welcome to another deep dive with us.
It's great to be back.
Today we're going to be looking at kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, bit of a deep cut.
It is a deep cut. It is the final track on Billy Joel's 1989 album Stormfront, and we're talking about, and so it goes.
A very powerful ballad.
Yeah, and we have some really interesting information from a dedicated Billy Joel fan website here.
Some super fans have put a lot of work into this.
Yeah, they really have. And I think, and so It Goes is one of those songs that kind of gets overshadowed.
It doesn't get as much attention as some of his other hits.
Right. And so today our mission is to unearth that and really dig into what's so special about this song.
Absolutely. Let's shine a light on. And so it goes.
All right, so one of the first things that really jumped out at me when I was looking over this material was that this song wasn't actually like a, hot off the presses type of thing for the Stormfront album.
Right. It had quite a history before it ended up on that record.
Yeah, it was actually written way back in 1983, so 6 years before Stormfront even came out.
Yeah. And, that's interesting because that year, 1983, marks a very specific period in his life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the time of his kind of whirlwind romance with Elle Macpherson.
The model.
The model, exactly. And, according to the website, it seems that even as he was falling for her, he kind of had this sense that it wasn't built to last.
Oh, wow.
Their careers were very demanding, both in very different worlds. And there was this unspoken recognition that it probably had an expiration date.
Wow. So he's writing this incredibly tender song with this kind of premonition almost.
Yeah, there's a real bittersweet quality to it right from the outset.
It's like writing a breakup song before the breakup even happened.
Exactly. And that just adds this extra layer of complexity to the emotion in the song.
It really does. And then here's the thing. It didn't even end up on the album that came out that year, An Innocent Man.
Strange, right?
And it didn't even make it on the bridge 3 years later. So what was going on?
What if you think about it? An Innocent Man was such a bright, upbeat album.
Total throwback vibes.
Yeah, very nostalgic, very retro, and and It Goes just wouldn't have fit in that sonic landscape.
Too melancholy.
Too melancholy, exactly. And as for the bridge, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a little harder to say, but perhaps it's more stripped down and intimate sound. Didn't quite gel with the overall production style of that album.
Maybe.
But then, it finally finds its home on Stormfront, which was a much more, bluesy, rock-infused record. And ending the album with And So Goes is just brilliant.
It is, yeah.
Creates this really interesting contrast. The storm has raged, and now we're left with this quiet contemplation.
The quiet aftermath.
Exactly.
I like that. And speaking of quiet contemplation, we got to talk about these lyrics.
Oh, they're just heartbreaking.
Yeah, the website pulls out all these just incredibly poignant lines. So what are some of the themes that really stand out to you when you listen to this song?
There's this overarching feeling of doomed romance,
Yeah.
But then there's also this incredible vulnerability, he's laying his heart bare. Take these lines. I would choose to be with you. That's if the choice were mine to make. But you can make decisions too, and you can have this heart to break.
Ooh.
It's so powerful, right?
It's so direct.
It is. He's not demanding anything. He's not pleading. He's just acknowledging that he has feelings, but it's not a one-way street.
He's acknowledging that his heart is on the line.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the website points out this really interesting image right at the start of the song, this idea of a sanctuary safe and strong.
That's such a fascinating way to open the song.
It is. It's this inner world he's built up maybe as a defense mechanism,
Yeah, a place where he's healed from past hurts and is waiting for a new love to enter.
So it's almost like a cyclical thing.
Yeah, exactly. He recognizes that he opens himself up to love, but with the knowledge that heartbreak is always a possibility.
It's not naive.
Not at all. It's love with a history.
Love with baggage.
And then you have that killer line, every time I've held the rose, it seems I only felt the thorns.
Oh, man, that gets me every time.
It's so simple, it's so profound.
Yeah, it's this perfect encapsulation of the idea that love and pain are intertwined.
For him, they're inseparable, and that feeds into the other repeated line, my silence and my self-defense.
Right, he's protecting himself.
It's not just about not speaking, it's about actively guarding his heart from further hurt.
Wow. And it's so interesting because the title of the song is And So It Goes, which kind of implies this acceptance.
Right, like a resignation.
But then the lyrics are all about this internal struggle.
And that tension is what makes the song so compelling.
It really does. Now, musically, the website describes the song as having this really spare piano accompaniment.
It's very effective.
Yeah, and they describe it as being anthemic and almost like a funeral dirge or a hymn.
There's definitely this somber and reflective quality to it.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that Billy Joel himself has said that he was inspired by this old English folk ballad called Barbara Allen.
From that Fireside Book of Folk Songs?
Yeah, which I actually have a copy of that at home. It's so cool.
It's a classic. And you can really hear that folk influence in the melody of, and so it goes.
So how so?
Well, think about Barbara Allen.
Yeah.
The melody is very straightforward, very
Yep.
focused on telling the story. And it's the same with And So.
Mm-hmm.
It goes, there's no like unnecessary ornamentation or flashy piano runs. It's all about conveying the raw emotion.
It's very stripped down.
Exactly. And then on top of that, Billy Joel has actually talked about using a lot of dissonant chords in the song.
For people who aren't musically inclined, what does that mean?
So dissonant chords are these combinations of notes that create a sense of tension or unease.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
those dissonant chords perfectly mirror the lyrical themes. Yeah.
Unresolved feelings.
Yeah, the relationship. That feels like it's heading for a painful conclusion.
Yeah.
So even though the piano playing is quite simple, there's this underlying tension in the harmony that just adds this extra layer of emotional depth.
Wow, that's really cool. And
Yeah.
it's so subtle, you don't even really notice it consciously.
Exactly. It's working on you subconsciously.
Now, when the song was released, the website mentions that it got a pretty glowing review in Rolling Stone.
Yeah, John McCallie, the critic at the time, was really impressed.
What did he say?
He called it a coda of exquisite grace.
Wow.
He was really struck by its maturity, and he described it as being both mournful and bracing.
I like that.
And he also said something really interesting. He said that it reflected the hard-earned wisdom of a no longer innocent man.
That's such a good line.
It is, and it really speaks to how Billy Joel was evolving as a songwriter. You know?
He wasn't just writing about teenage heartbreak anymore.
Exactly. He was writing from a place of experience, and it really shows, and so it goes.
But despite that critical acclaim, and despite the fact that it was released as a single, the song never really reached the same level of popularity as some of his other hits.
That's true. It often gets a little overlooked.
Why do you think that is?
It's hard to say for sure, but maybe it's because it's a bit more understated.
It's not like a big anthem.
Yeah, it's not a fist-pumping arena rock song.
Yeah.
It's a quiet ballad that requires you to really listen and absorb the lyrics.
It's a grower.
Yeah, and sometimes those kinds of songs take a little longer to find their audience.
Yeah, and sometimes they just don't.
That's true. But what's really fascinating is that Billy Joel himself holds this song in incredibly high regard.
Yeah, the website mentions that in a 2010 interview with Howard Stern, he actually played And So It Goes when asked about his most underappreciated songs.
And even more tellingly, in a 2022 interview with Fareed Zakaria, he said that And So It Goes is the song he's most proud of composing
Out of all of his songs.
out of his entire catalog.
Wow, that's a huge statement.
It really is, and it speaks volumes about how artists view their own work. Sometimes their favorites aren't the ones that get the most commercial success.
Absolutely, and it makes you want to go back and listen to it with fresh ears, you know?
Definitely.
And it's interesting because the song has kind of found a new life in recent years thanks to its use in popular culture. The website mentions that it was featured in the TV series This Is Us.
Which is known for its emotional storylines.
Yeah, and so it goes in a really powerful way.
It's like the perfect song for a show like that.
Yeah, and it's been covered by all sorts of artists, too.
Oh, yeah, there's some great covers out there.
Yeah, Jennifer Warnes, Tommy Emmanuel. Someone even did a bagpipe version,
Wow.
which is just wild.
It's amazing how a song can be reinterpreted in so many different ways.
It speaks to the strength of the song itself, you know?
The melody and the lyrics clearly resonate with people, regardless of genre or instrumentation. Even Art Garfunkel has performed it live.
Really?
Yeah, and that's not something he does lightly.
No, he's got very high standards.
And there's even a demo version on the My Lives compilation, which shows that Billy Joel was really working on this song for a long time, even before it was officially released.
So it clearly had a special place in his heart.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into... I think it's safe to say that this is a song that deserves a lot more attention than it often gets.
It's a hidden gem.
It really is, and it's a reminder that sometimes the quietest songs and the ones that have the most to say.
Exactly. We've talked about its origins in a fleeting romance. The unexpected folk influenced the emotional weight of those dissonant chords and its enduring legacy in popular culture.
It's got it all.
And it makes you think about all those other seemingly understated songs out there in the world, just waiting to be discovered.
Yeah. What other hidden gems are we missing out on?
That's a great question, and one for our listeners to ponder.
So to everyone listening, what's your favorite Billy Joel deep cut?
Or even just a deep cut from any artist that you think deserves more love.
Yeah, let us know in the comments, and until next time, happy listening.
See you on the next Deep Dive.